I woke up in the hospital with dried blood crusted across half my face and my mother standing over me saying, "The police found an empty bottle of Jack Daniels in your car, Skylar. You've ruined everything. Not are you okay, not thank God you're alive. Just accusations." My phone buzzed on the table. 37 missed calls, 62 messages, and one notification that made my blood run cold. A photo of me had gone viral. 3,000 shares in 2 hours. Except it wasn't me. It was someone wearing my face, my jacket slouched against a car with a whiskey bottle dangling from their hand, grinning like they didn't have a care in the world. The caption read, "Some people never learn." I didn't take that photo. I wasn't drunk. And that wasn't even my car. But nobody believed me, because my sister Chloe had made sure of that. If you're wondering how someone could frame their own sister for drunk driving and attempted murder, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me what you'd do in this situation, because what comes next is a story about betrayal so deep it nearly killed me and the revenge that followed. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I ended up in that hospital bed, how the person I trusted most tried to destroy me, and how I made sure she paid for every single lie. 3 months earlier, my life looked completely different. I was 28, working as a junior project manager at a tech firm in Seattle, living in a modest apartment in Capitol Hill, and doing everything I could to stay in my family's good graces. That meant saying yes when I wanted to say no. That meant swallowing my pride when my stepsister Chloe took credit for my ideas at family dinners. That meant watching my father beam at her while I sat in the corner invisible. But to really understand how deep this betrayal went, I need to take you back even further. Back to when I was 10 years old and my world first started cracking. My mother died when I was 9, breast cancer. It was fast and brutal, the kind of illness that doesn't give you time to prepare. One day she was there packing my lunch and helping me with homework, and 6 months later I was standing at her funeral in a black dress that was too big for me, watching my father cry for the first and last time. The year after she died was the hardest of my life. My father threw himself into work, leaving me with babysitters and nannies who cycled through our house like seasons. I learned to be quiet, to take care of myself, to not need anything from anyone. I thought that was what he needed from me, space to grieve. Then Linda came into our lives. Linda was beautiful in that intimidating way. Tall, blonde, always perfect. A marketing executive who worked in my father's building. They started dating when I was 10. She brought Chloe, her 7-year-old daughter with golden curls and big blue eyes, the kind of child adults cooed over. I wanted to like her. I thought having a sister would make the house less empty. But I saw who Chloe really was on day one. At our first family dinner, my father ordered chocolate lava cake for the table, the dessert I'd been waiting for all night. When it arrived, Chloe pulled the entire plate to herself and dug in. I waited for someone to tell her to share. Instead, Linda laughed. "Skylar, honey, you don't mind, do you? You can order another one." I did mind, but I was 10 and desperate for my father to be happy. So I said it was fine. That became our pattern. Chloe wanted, Chloe got. I learned to step aside. They married when I was 11. I walked down the aisle in an itchy pink dress while Chloe beamed in a beautiful blue gown. At the reception, everyone praised our beautiful family. No one noticed me sitting alone in the corner watching my father dance with his new wife and her daughter. Then Linda erased my mother. Mom's photos came down, replaced by generic art. Her garden was paved over for a pool. Her reading chair donated because Linda thought it looked dated. Everything that had been Mom's slowly disappeared. I tried to save some things. A few photos, her favorite necklace, a quilt she had made. I hid them in my closet, but Chloe found them one day while snooping through my room. "What's this junk?" she asked, holding up my mother's necklace. "It's not junk, it was my mom's. Put it back." "Your mom's dead," Chloe said matter-of-factly. "My mom's your mom now. You should get over it." She was 9 years old when she said that to me. 9. And the way she looked at me when she said it, with this cold, calculating expression that didn't belong on a child's face, made my blood run cold. I grabbed the necklace from her hand and shoved her away. She fell backward, landing on her butt with a theatrical gasp, and immediately started screaming. Linda came running, and of course Chloe's version of events was that I had attacked her unprovoked. I was grounded for 2 weeks. No phone, no TV, no leaving my room except for school and meals. Chloe got ice cream and a new doll as a consolation prize for her traumatic experience. That was when I learned that in our new family structure there was a hierarchy and I was at the bottom. High school was worse. Chloe had always been pretty, but as she got older, she learned how to weaponize it. She was popular in a way I never was, with a rotating circle of friends who hung on her every word. She was on the cheerleading squad, dated the quarterback, got invited to all the parties. I was in the debate club and spent my Friday nights studying. Not because I was naturally academic, but because it was the only thing I could do that Chloe couldn't touch. She hated school, scraped by with C's and D's, and I think that's the only reason Linda and my father let me have that one thing. They needed at least one daughter who could get into college on her own merit. But even that became complicated. When I was 16, I won a statewide debate competition. It was a huge deal, the biggest accomplishment of my life at that point. I came home with the trophy, excited to show my father, and found him in the living room with Linda and Chloe. "Dad, look, I won." I held up the trophy, and for a second I saw pride flash across his face. "That's great, honey. I'm proud of you." Then Linda spoke up. "Oh, that reminds me. Chloe has some exciting news too. She made varsity cheerleading. As a sophomore, that's practically unheard of." And just like that, the attention shifted. My father was congratulating Chloe, asking about her routines, promising to come to all her competitions. My trophy ended up on a shelf in my room, and Chloe's cheerleading photo went on the mantle. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was being petty and jealous, but deep down, a small, angry part of me was keeping score, and Chloe was winning by a landslide. The financial stuff started in college. I had worked hard, gotten scholarships, but it wasn't enough to cover everything. I needed help with housing and books. I approached my father nervously, already prepared for rejection. "I can give you $5,000 a year," he said. "The rest you'll have to figure out yourself. Loans, work, study, whatever you need to do. It'll teach you responsibility." I was grateful. 5,000 was more than I expected. I worked 2 part-time jobs, took out loans, and made it work. I lived in the cheapest dorms, ate ramen more nights than I care to remember, and wore the same 3 outfits on rotation. Then Chloe graduated high school and announced she was going to UCLA, a private school out of state with tuition that cost more than my entire 4 years of college combined. "We're so proud of her," Linda gushed at dinner. "She worked so hard to get in." Chloe had barely graduated with a 2.3 gigapascals. She got in because Linda's brother was a major donor to the school, but no one said that out loud. "How are you going to pay for it?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Oh, Dad's taking care of everything," Chloe said, smiling sweetly at me. "Tuition, housing, spending money. He said I should focus on my studies and not worry about working." I looked at my father, waiting for him to see the unfairness of it, to acknowledge that he was giving Chloe everything while I struggled. But he just smiled and said, "Different children have different needs, Skylar. You're more independent. Chloe needs more support." That night, I cried in my dorm room until my roommate threatened to call student health services. I didn't understand why it hurt so much. I had known for years that I wasn't the favorite, that I would never be what they wanted, but having it spelled out so clearly, so matter-of-factly, felt like being gutted. After college, things got slightly better. I moved to Seattle, got a job, started building a life that was separate from my family. I saw them for holidays and the occasional dinner, and I could mostly tolerate it by keeping my expectations low. Chloe graduated from UCLA with a degree in communications and immediately moved back to Seattle. Linda set her up with an apartment in a trendy neighborhood, furnished it entirely from West Elm, and helped her land a job at a marketing firm through family connections. 6 months later, Chloe quit that job to start her foundation. The Chloe Davis Foundation for Youth Empowerment was supposedly a nonprofit dedicated to helping underprivileged teenagers. In reality, it was an excuse for Chloe to throw parties, network with wealthy people, and build a personal brand as a philanthropist. I had looked into it once, curious about what the foundation actually did, and found that less than 10% of their donations went to actual programs. The rest went to administrative costs, which appeared to be mostly Chloe's salary and event expenses. But my father ate it up. "Chloe's doing such important work," he would say. "She's really found her calling." Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks at my tech firm, trying to prove myself in an industry that didn't take kindly to women, especially women who didn't come from money or connections. I was good at my job, I knew I was, but promotions were slow and recognition was scarce. About a year before everything fell apart, Chloe got engaged to Eric Donovan. I had met Eric a few times at family functions. He was handsome in that generic way that wealthy men often are, with perfectly styled hair and expensive suits. His father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the Pacific Northwest. Eric himself worked in the family business, though. From what I could tell, his job consisted mostly of playing golf with clients and attending ribbon-cutting ceremonies. He seemed nice enough if a bit boring. I couldn't figure out what he saw in Chloe beyond her looks, but then again, maybe that was enough. The engagement party was held at a country club naturally. 200 guests, an open bar, a band flown in from Los Angeles. I wore my nicest dress, a simple black number that I had bought on sale, and felt completely out of place among the designer gowns and jewelry that probably cost more than my car. Chloe was radiant, of course. She wore white even though it was just an engagement party, and held court in the center of the room like a queen greeting her subjects. When she saw me, she waved me over with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Skylar, I'm so glad you could make it. Isn't this wonderful?" "It's beautiful," I said, because it was true. Everything Chloe touched was beautiful. That was part of her power. "I want you to be one of my bridesmaids," she said, and I must have looked surprised because she laughed. "Don't look so shocked. You're my sister. Of course you'll be in the wedding." I should have been touched. Part of me wanted to be touched. But there was something about the way she said it, like she was doing me a favor, that made me hesitate. "That's really sweet of you, Chloe. Thank you. The dresses are going to be custom made. They're expensive, but don't worry, I'm sure you can afford it if you save up." She squeezed my hand. "It means so much to me that you'll be there." The bridesmaid dresses, it turned out, cost $1,200 each, plus shoes, plus hair and makeup, plus the bachelorette party in Cabo, plus the bridal shower gift. All in all, being Chloe's bridesmaid was going to cost me close to $4,000. I almost backed out. I started crafting the text message in my head, some excuse about work being too busy, about not being able to commit. But then my father called. "I hear Chloe asked you to be in the wedding. That's great, honey. It's important for you two to have a good relationship." "Yeah, it's just expensive, and I know money's been tight for you. Tell you what, I'll help you out with half the costs. Consider it an early birthday present." It was the first time in years he had offered to help me with anything without me asking. Part of me knew it was just to make sure I played along to keep up appearances for Chloe's perfect wedding. But another part of me, the part that was still that 10-year-old girl desperate for her father's approval, couldn't say no. "Thanks, Dad. That really helps." "Of course, you're my daughter. I want you to be happy." If only he had meant it. The months before the wedding were hell. Chloe became a bridezilla who texted me 47 times about invitation colors and held emergency meetings over napkin shades. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks trying to land a promotion, but every spare second got swallowed by her wedding demands. The bachelorette party was particularly awful. We flew to Cabo San Lucas for a long weekend, and Chloe had planned every minute of it. Pool parties at exclusive clubs, VIP bottles of champagne that cost more than my monthly rent, a private yacht cruise where we all had to wear matching white bikinis that Chloe had ordered without asking our sizes. Mine didn't fit. It was too small, digging into my skin and making me feel exposed and uncomfortable. When I tried to mention it to Chloe, she just laughed. "Oh, I ordered everyone a small. I figured it would be motivation to look good for the photos." I spent most of that weekend feeling like a fraud, trying to smile for pictures while internally calculating how much this was costing me and whether I could return any of the purchases. On the last night, after too many margaritas, one of Chloe's friends pulled me aside. Her name was Jessica, and we had been making small talk all weekend. "Can I ask you something?" Jessica said, her words slightly slurred. "Sure. What's it like having Chloe as a sister?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I just mean, like, she's so perfect, and you're so different from her. Don't you ever feel like you're competing?" I should have lied. Should have said something diplomatic about how we each have our own strengths. But the alcohol and the exhaustion made me honest. I stopped competing a long time ago. You can't win a game when the other person makes all the rules. Jessica looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." She paused. "Can I tell you something, just between us?" "Okay. I don't think Chloe's a good person. I think she's manipulative and selfish. But she's also really good at making you feel like you need her, like your life would be less interesting or less important without her in it, and that's why we all stick around." "Why are you telling me this?" Jessica shrugged. "Because you seem nice, and I think you deserve better than spending your life in her shadow." That conversation stuck with me long after we returned to Seattle. It planted a seed of something, an awareness that I had been suppressing for years, that maybe the problem wasn't me. Maybe I wasn't too sensitive or too jealous or too damaged. Maybe Chloe really was the problem. But I didn't act on that awareness. Not yet. I just filed it away and kept going through the motions. The night of the crash, I had been at the office until late working on a presentation for a major client meeting. This was my chance to prove myself to show the partners that I could handle bigger responsibilities. I had been working on this project for 3 months, collaborating with teams across different time zones, managing budgets and timelines and stakeholder expectations. My manager Tom had pulled me aside that afternoon. I want you to know that the partners have been really impressed with your work on this project. We're going to be discussing promotions in the next quarter, and your name is definitely going to come up. I had almost cried right there in his office. Thank you. That means everything to me. You've earned it, Skylar. You're one of the hardest workers we have. I left the office that night feeling lighter than I had in months. For once, something was going right. My career was finally taking off. I was being recognized for my actual work, not because of who my family was or what connections I had. The office was in downtown Seattle, and the drive to my apartment in Capitol Hill usually took about 20 minutes. It was close to 11 when I got in my car, rain starting to come down in that persistent Seattle drizzle. The streets were mostly empty, just a few other cars and the occasional person hurrying along the sidewalk with an umbrella. I had barely made it 5 blocks when my phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Hey Skylar, I have a huge favor to ask. Can we swap cars tonight? I have this really important meeting tomorrow morning with a potential investor for my nonprofit, and my car is making this weird noise. I think something is wrong with the brakes. Your car is so much more reliable. Please, I'll bring yours back tomorrow. Promise. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Every instinct I had was telling me to say no, that this was asking too much, that Chloe could afford to get her car fixed or take an Uber or ask literally anyone else. But then another message came through. I know it's a lot to ask, but you're the only one I trust with this. The meeting is with the Harrison Group. They could donate over $1 million to the foundation. It could change everything. Please, Skylar, I need you. The Harrison Group was legitimate. I had heard of them. They were one of the biggest charitable foundations in the Pacific Northwest. If Chloe really did have a meeting with them, it was a big deal. And despite everything, despite years of feeling invisible and taken for granted, there was still a part of me that wanted Chloe to succeed, that wanted to believe we could be real sisters someday. I typed back. Where are you? Corner of Pine and Broadway. You're a lifesaver, Skylar. Seriously, I owe you. I changed course, driving toward the location she had sent. It took me about 15 minutes to get there, navigating through downtown traffic and one-way streets. When I arrived, Chloe was standing under a streetlight on the corner, and the scene looked almost staged. She was wearing a cream-colored coat over what looked like an expensive dress, her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She looked every inch the successful young philanthropist. Her BMW was parked nearby, sleek and black, and probably worth more than I would make in 2 years. My Honda looked shabby in comparison, but it was reliable, and it was mine. You're the best, Chloe said as I got out of my car. She immediately gave me a hug, and I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive. I was so worried I'd have to reschedule. This meeting is everything. What's wrong with the brakes exactly? I asked, looking at her car. I don't know. They just feel soft when I press down on them. Squishy, like there's not enough pressure. I was going to take it to the mechanic, but with the meeting tomorrow morning at 8, I didn't have time. Have you been driving it like this for a while? Just a couple days. It's probably nothing serious, but you know how paranoid I get about car trouble. She held out her keys. Trade. There was something about this whole situation that felt off, but I couldn't articulate what it was. Maybe it was the location, a random street corner downtown instead of one of our homes. Maybe it was the urgency in her voice that didn't quite match her relaxed body language. Maybe it was the way she wouldn't quite look me in the eye. But I was tired. I wanted to get home. And I had been conditioned my entire life to say yes to Chloe. Fine, but I need my car back tomorrow by 6. I have to drive to Tacoma on Thursday morning for a site visit. Absolutely. I promise. I'll have it detailed for you as a thank you. She gave me another quick hug, then took my keys and walked toward my Honda. Drive safe. And then she was gone, pulling away from the curb and disappearing into the night. I stood there for a moment watching her taillights fade, then walked over to her BMW. The interior was immaculate, of course. Leather seats that still had that new car smell, even though the car was 3 years old. The dashboard was clean, not a speck of dust anywhere. There was a designer gym bag in the back seat and a pair of expensive sunglasses in the cup holder. I adjusted the seat and mirrors, then pulled out into traffic. The car drove smoothly at first, responsive and powerful in a way my Honda had never been. But as I drove, I started to notice what Chloe had mentioned. When I pressed the brake pedal, there was a softness to it, a sponginess, like the pressure wasn't quite right. I tested it a few times, pressing down harder each time, and the brakes responded, but they felt uncertain, unreliable. If Chloe had been driving like this for days, she was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I decided to take surface streets instead of the highway just to be safe. The drive was longer, but I would have more control if something went wrong. The rain was coming down harder now, and the streets were slick and shiny under the streetlights. I was about halfway home when I turned onto a road that curved through a more wooded area of the city. During the day, this stretch was beautiful, with tall evergreens pressing in on both sides and glimpses of Lake Washington through the trees. At night, it was isolated and eerie, the trees creating walls of darkness that the streetlights barely penetrated. There was no one else on the road. It was just me and the rain and the darkness. I had the radio on some indie station playing a song I half recognized. I was thinking about my presentation tomorrow, going through my talking points in my head when I saw the headlights. They came around the curve ahead of me, high and bright. Another car coming toward me. At first I didn't think anything of it. Just another person driving home late at night. But then the car drifted into my lane. For a split second I thought maybe they hadn't seen me. Maybe they were distracted looking at their phone or changing the radio station. I flashed my high beams a warning and they would correct course. They didn't. The headlights kept coming, getting brighter and bigger, and I realized with a jolt of pure terror that they weren't drifting. They were heading straight for me. I laid on the horn one long sustained blast and jerked the wheel to the right, trying to get out of the way. That's when I slammed on the brakes. Or tried to. The pedal went all the way to the floor. There was no resistance, no pressure, nothing. The car didn't slow. The brakes were gone. Panic flooded my system cold and sharp. I pumped the pedal frantically again and again, but nothing happened. The car was still moving at full speed, and I was heading straight for the curve, straight for the trees. The other car swerved at the last second, missing me by inches. I heard them lay on their horn as they passed a Doppler effect of sound that faded into the night, but I couldn't focus on that. All I could focus on was the fact that I was going 50 miles per hour with no brakes, and a sharp curve coming up fast. I yanked the wheel hard to the left, trying to stay on the road, but the pavement was slick with rain and the tires couldn't grip. The car started to slide, a sickening sideways motion that I couldn't control. Time seemed to slow down. I could see every detail with perfect clarity. The raindrops on the windshield, the tree trunk rushing toward me, my own face reflected in the glass, pale and terrified. I thought about my mother. I wondered if dying in a car crash would hurt less than dying of cancer. I thought about my father and whether he would cry at my funeral the way he had cried at hers. And then I thought about Chloe and that soft, squishy feeling in the brake pedal, and I realized with sudden, horrible clarity that this wasn't an accident. The impact was beyond anything I could have imagined. The front of the car crumpled like aluminum foil, the metal shrieking and tearing. The windshield exploded into 1,000 pieces. The airbag deployed with a sound like a bomb going off, slamming into my face with enough force to make my teeth rattle. My head whipped forward and then snapped back my neck, screaming in protest. The seatbelt caught me across the chest so hard I felt something crack. Pain exploded everywhere all at once, bright and overwhelming and impossible to locate because it was everywhere. And then silence. Not total silence. I could hear the engine hissing, steam escaping from the destroyed radiator. I could hear the rain pattering on the crumpled hood. I could hear my own breathing, rapid and shallow and panicked. But the silence was in my head, a moment of absolute clarity where everything stopped and I understood with complete certainty that I had almost died. I tried to move and pain lanced through my left arm. I looked down and saw it bent at an angle that arms shouldn't bend. Broken. Definitely broken. My face felt wet and I touched my forehead with my good hand. Blood. A lot of it streaming from a gash above my eyebrow. The door was jammed shut. I pulled on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The window wouldn't roll down. The car was wrapped around the tree trunk like a cocoon, and I was trapped inside. My phone. I needed my phone. I needed to call for help. I felt around the car, searching blindly, but I couldn't find it. It must have flown somewhere during the impact, wedged under a seat or thrown into the back. Panic started to rise in my chest, cold and suffocating. I was trapped, I was hurt, and I had no way to call anyone. That's when I heard the sirens. They started far away, just a distant wail, but they got louder and louder. Someone had seen the crash. Someone had called for help. I wasn't going to die alone in this car after all. The paramedics arrived with police and a fire truck. Through the shattered windshield, I could see flashlights and reflective gear, people moving around the car, assessing the damage. Someone shone a light in my face, and I squinted against the brightness. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" I tried to speak, but my mouth wasn't working right. My tongue felt too big, too heavy. I managed to nod. "We're going to get you out, just hold on." They had to use the jaws of life to cut through the metal. I could hear the machinery whining, the sound of tearing steel, and then cold air rushing in as they peeled back the door like opening a tin can. Hands reached in, gentle but firm, stabilizing my neck and head. They asked me questions. My name. Did I know where I was? Did I know what day it was? I answered as best I could, but my words were slurred and wrong. "Have you been drinking tonight, ma'am?" "No," I said. Or at least I think I said it. Everything was getting fuzzy around the edges. They asked again. And again. Different paramedics, different phrasing, but the same question underneath. "Were you drunk? Were you impaired? Why did you crash?" I kept saying no, but even I could hear how I sounded. The slurred speech, the confusion, the inability to form coherent sentences. It didn't matter that it was from the head injury. It didn't matter that I hadn't touched a drop of alcohol. I sounded drunk, and that's all that mattered. They got me onto a stretcher. The rain was falling on my face, cold and clean, and I remember thinking it felt good, like it was washing away the blood, washing away what had just happened. The ambulance ride was a blur. Bright lights, voices asking questions, pain that came in waves, cresting and receding but never fully going away, and underneath it all a single thought repeating over and over. Chloe did this, Chloe did this, Chloe did this. At the hospital, they ran me through a battery of tests. Blood work to check for alcohol and drugs, CT scan of my head, x-rays of my arm and ribs. I had a severe concussion, a broken ulna, 3 cracked ribs, and a gash on my forehead that took 17 stitches to close. But I was alive. That's what the doctors kept saying. "You're very lucky. An accident like that, you're lucky to be alive." It wasn't an accident, I wanted to tell them. It wasn't luck. But the words wouldn't come. My brain felt like it was swimming through mud, slow and sluggish, and unable to form coherent thoughts. They admitted me for observation because of the head injury. Concussions could be tricky, they said. They needed to monitor me for swelling, for changes in consciousness. I was moved to a room on the 4th floor, hooked up to various monitors, and told to rest. I couldn't rest. Even with the pain medication they gave me, even with my body screaming for sleep, I couldn't stop my mind from racing. The brakes, the car, Chloe's text messages. It was all connected, it had to be, but I couldn't figure out how. I must have eventually fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through the window and my mother was sitting in the chair beside my bed. She wasn't looking at me. She was scrolling through her phone, her face set in an expression I knew well. Irritation, disappointment, that look she got when I had done something to inconvenience her. "Mom." My voice came out as a croak, rough and painful. She looked up and I expected to see some flicker of relief or concern. "Your daughter almost died, you would think that would warrant some emotion." Instead, her expression hardened. "Oh, you're awake, good. Maybe now you can explain to me what the hell you were thinking." "What?" She stood up and thrust her phone at me, the screen bright in my face. Explain this." I blinked, trying to focus. The screen showed a social media post. A photo. Someone leaning against a car, a bottle of whiskey in one hand, grinning at the camera. The person was wearing my leather jacket. They had my hair color, my build. For a moment I thought it was me. Then I looked closer. The photo was taken from a distance, slightly blurry like it had been zoomed in. The lighting was dim, shadows obscuring details, but there was something wrong with the face. The nose was slightly different. The jawline was softer. The smile didn't quite match. I looked at the background. It was a driveway I recognized. My father and Linda's house, the circular driveway with its ornate lampposts and perfectly manicured hedges. The timestamp on the post said it was from the night before, around 9 p.m., an hour before I had met Chloe to swap cars. "That's not me," I said. "Don't lie to me, Skylar." My mother's voice was sharp enough to cut. "You're all over social media right now. Everyone has seen this photo. The police found an empty bottle of Jack Daniels in the car. Your blood alcohol was tested at the scene." "I wasn't drinking, I swear, Mom. That photo isn't me. Look at it closely. That's not my face." "You're being ridiculous. That's clearly you. That's your jacket, your hair, everything." "It's not me, and that's not my car in the background. That's Chloe's BMW, the one I was driving. Chloe and I swapped cars last night. She said her brakes were broken and she needed to borrow mine for a meeting." My mother stared at me like I had grown a second head. "So now you're trying to blame your sister who has done nothing but try to help you your entire life." "She's not my sister. She's my stepsister. And I'm not blaming her, I'm telling you what happened." We swapped cars. I was driving her BMW when the brakes failed. That's her car wrapped around that tree, not mine. Skylar, enough. My mother's voice dropped to that dangerous, quiet tone. I have spoken to Chloe. I have spoken to the police. I know what happened. You took Chloe's car without permission despite her explicitly telling you that it needed repair work. You got drunk at some bar downtown, decided you were fine to drive, and you crashed. Now you're trying to create some elaborate story to cover your own ass. That's not what happened. Then show me proof. Show me these text messages where Chloe asked you to swap cars. My phone was destroyed in the crash. You saw it. It's completely smashed. How convenient. Before I could respond, the door opened and my father walked in. He looked older than I had seen him at Chloe's engagement party just a few weeks ago. His hair seemed grayer. There were new lines around his eyes and mouth. He looked tired and angry and disappointed all at once. Skylar, he said, and the way he said my name made me want to cry. Like I was a stranger. Like I was a problem to be solved. Dad, please, you have to listen to me. No. He held up his hand. I don't have to listen to anything. I've already spoken with the police. I've already spoken with Chloe. I know what you did. I didn't do anything. Chloe's lying. Chloe is not lying. Do you know how I know that? Because Chloe has never given me a reason not to trust her. You, on the other hand, have a history of blaming other people for your problems. That felt like a slap. What are you talking about? When have I ever... When you were 12, you told us that Chloe broke your mother's necklace. But we found it in your drawer perfectly intact. You lied to try to get Chloe in trouble. Because she had taken it, I was hiding it to keep it safe from her. When you were 16, you accused Chloe of plagiarizing your debate speech. The school investigated and found no evidence of wrongdoing. That's because she changed enough words that they couldn't prove it, but I know she stole my ideas. And now you're accusing her of sabotaging her own car and framing you for drunk driving. Do you hear how insane that sounds? I was crying now, hot tears streaming down my face, stinging the stitches on my forehead. Why would I lie about this? What would I have to gain? Sympathy. Attention. A way to avoid taking responsibility for your actions. My father crossed his arms. Skylar, you need to grow up. You need to stop being jealous of your sister and start taking accountability for your own life. She's not my sister. She is your sister. Linda is your mother. This is your family whether you like it or not. And right now you are tearing this family apart with your lies and accusations. The door opened again and this time it was Chloe. She looked terrible, which was unusual for Chloe. Her eyes were red and puffy like she had been crying. She wasn't wearing any makeup. Her hair was in a messy bun. She was dressed in a simple black dress that made her look small and vulnerable. It was a performance. I could see it even through my pain and confusion. This was Chloe playing the role of the wounded victim, and she was playing it perfectly. Skylar, she said softly, her voice trembling. I'm so glad you're okay. When I heard about the accident, I was terrified. I thought her voice broke. I thought I had lost you. Get out, I said. Honey, I know you're upset and I understand, I really do, but I'm not angry with you. I forgive you. I don't want your forgiveness. I want you to tell them the truth. She came closer to the bed and I wanted to scream at her to stop to get away from me, but I was trapped, helpless, just like she wanted me. I have told the truth, Chloe said. I told the police that you had my permission to use the car. I said I lent it to you because your car was having problems. I didn't want you to get in more trouble, Skylar. I wanted to protect you. You're lying. I also told them that I had warned you about the brakes, that I had specifically said the car needed to go to the shop, but you took it anyway because you thought you knew better. She reached out like she was going to take my hand and I jerked away so violently that pain shot through my broken arm and I gasped. My mother moved to comfort Chloe, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. It's okay, sweetheart. She doesn't mean it. She's just in shock. I mean every word I said through gritted teeth. Chloe pulled out her phone and turned it toward me. The photo. That damned photo. This is you, Skylar. This is you at Mom and Dad's house last night. You came by around 7 and you were already drunk. You could barely walk straight. I was at work until 11. My manager can confirm it. The security logs will show when I left the building. Then why don't the security logs from Mom and Dad's house show you leaving? They have cameras, you know. And they show your car arriving at 7:15 and leaving at 8:30, with you driving. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. Is it? Chloe's eyes met mine, and for just a fraction of a second the mask slipped. I saw the cold calculation underneath, the triumph, the absolute certainty that she had won. Then it was gone, replaced by that same wounded, sympathetic expression. Or maybe you just don't remember. Head injuries can cause memory loss, you know. She was good. She was so good. She had thought of everything. The photo, the timeline, the security footage. She had built a narrative so airtight that even I was starting to doubt my own memories. No. No, I knew what happened. I knew the truth. I had to hold on to that. I want you to leave, I said quietly. Skylar, get out of my room, all of you, now. My father's face hardened. Fine. But we will be discussing this later, and you will be apologizing to your sister. And to this family for the embarrassment you've caused. They left. All three of them. My mother helped Chloe out, murmuring comforting words. My father didn't even look back at me. I was alone again, and for the first time since I woke up, I let myself really feel the weight of what had happened. Chloe had tried to kill me. Or at least she had tried to hurt me badly enough that I would be discredited, blamed, destroyed. And she had almost succeeded. But she had made one mistake. She had assumed I would do what I always did. Accept the blame. Stay quiet. Play my role as the family scapegoat and move on. She didn't know that she had pushed me too far this time. She didn't know that I was done. Over the next 3 days in the hospital, I had a lot of time to think, to plan, to figure out how to prove what Chloe had done when she had covered her tracks so perfectly. Detective Ben Carter came to interview me on the second day. He was in his mid-40s with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. He had the look of someone who had seen too much and believed too little. Miss Davis, I'm going to need you to walk me through the events of that night. I told him everything. The text messages from Chloe, meeting her to swap cars, the drive home, the other car that forced me off the road, the brakes that didn't work. He wrote it all down, nodding occasionally, but I could see the skepticism written all over his face. And you didn't notice any issues with the brakes before you crashed. I noticed they felt soft, spongy, but I thought it was just what Chloe had mentioned in her text. I didn't realize they would fail completely. The forensics team examined the wreckage. The brake lines were severely deteriorated, like they had been worn down over time or possibly deliberately damaged. Hope flared in my chest. So you believe me, you think someone tampered with them? I'm saying it's a possibility we're investigating. However, Miss Davis gave a very different account of events. She says you took her vehicle without permission and that she had explicitly told you the car was unsafe to drive. That's a lie. She also provided photos and statements indicating you were intoxicated on the evening in question. I wasn't drunk. Your blood test proved that. The blood test we took at the hospital several hours after the accident showed no alcohol in your system, but your behavior at the scene was consistent with intoxication, according to the first responders. I had a severe concussion. Of course I was confused and disoriented. Detective Carter held up his hands in a placating gesture. I understand you're upset, but I have to follow the evidence, and right now the evidence suggests you took Chloe Davis's vehicle without proper permission and drove it despite knowing it had mechanical issues. Check my phone records. Check my work computer. I can prove I was at work until 11. I can prove Chloe texted me asking to swap cars. Your phone was destroyed in the accident. And Miss Davis claims she deleted her texts with you to protect you from additional legal liability. How convenient for her. She also says she offered to pay your hospital bills and legal fees as a gesture of family goodwill. That stopped me cold. What? She submitted a statement saying that she doesn't want to press charges for unauthorized use of her vehicle, that she considers it a family matter and wants to handle it privately. This was even worse than I thought. Chloe wasn't just framing me for the accident. She was positioning herself as the magnanimous victim, the loving sister who was extending mercy to her troubled sibling. It made her look generous and made me look guilty. Did you consider, I said slowly, that maybe Chloe is lying, that maybe she's the one who tampered with those brakes? Detective Carter looked at me with something that might have been pity. Why would she do that? Because she's a sociopath who's been manipulating everyone around her for her entire life. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Check her background. Talk to her ex-boyfriend Liam Harper. He'll tell you about the credit card fraud, the forged documents. We have spoken with Mr. Harper. He declined to make any official statement and said he doesn't want to be involved. Of course, Liam was still scared of her even after all these years. Detective Carter stood up, closing his notebook. Miss Davis, I'll continue to investigate. But I have to tell you, without concrete evidence, this case is going to come down to your word against hers. And right now she has a lot more credibility. After he left, I lay in that hospital bed and felt the full weight of hopelessness settle over me. Chloe had thought of everything. She had built the perfect trap, and I had walked right into it. But as the hours passed and I cycled through pain medication and fitful sleep, something else started to build inside me. Not hopelessness. Anger. Pure, white-hot, crystalline anger. Chloe had taken everything from me. My family's trust, my reputation, nearly my life. And she had done it all with a smile on her face, playing the role of the concerned sister while she twisted the knife. I had spent my entire life letting her win, stepping aside, making myself smaller so she could shine brighter, accepting the scraps of my father's attention while she got the full meal. No more. If Chloe wanted to play games, fine. I would play too. But she had made one critical mistake. She had assumed I was still that scared little 10-year-old girl who just wanted to be loved. She didn't realize that girl was gone, burned away in a car crash on a rainy night, and what was left in her place was someone who had nothing left to lose. I was discharged from the hospital on the 4th day. My insurance had run out and they needed the bed. They gave me prescriptions for pain medication, a referral for physical therapy for my arm, and instructions to follow up with my doctor in 2 weeks for the concussion evaluation. I had no way to get home. My father and Linda didn't offer to pick me up. I called an Uber and used the last bit of credit available on my credit card, praying it wouldn't decline. The driver was a young guy, maybe mid-20s, who took one look at me and decided not to make conversation. I was grateful for that. I didn't think I could handle small talk about the weather or traffic while my entire life was falling apart. My apartment felt different when I walked in. Cold, empty, like it belonged to someone else. I locked the door behind me and slid down to the floor, my back against the wall, and finally let myself fall apart. I cried until there were no tears left, until my throat was raw and my head was pounding and I felt completely hollowed out. And when I was done, when there was nothing left inside me but that cold, hard kernel of anger, I made myself get up. I made myself think. If Chloe had planned this, there had to be proof. There had to be evidence somewhere, something she had overlooked or underestimated. I just needed to find it. The first step was to try to recover my phone data. The police still had the physical device as evidence, but they had told me I could retrieve my personal effects once the investigation wrapped up. I called the evidence room every day for 2 weeks until they finally told me I could pick it up. The phone looked like it had been through a war. The screen was shattered into 1,000 pieces, the casing bent and cracked, the battery visible through a split in the back. But I took it to 3 different repair shops before I found one that said they might be able to recover something. I can try to access the memory directly, the technician said, but no promises. This thing took serious damage. How much will it cost? $200 up front and another $200 if I'm successful. It was money I didn't have, but I paid it anyway. I needed those text messages. They were the only concrete proof I had that Chloe had asked me to swap cars. While I waited for the phone recovery, I started digging into other angles. I created a fake social media account and started following Chloe and all her friends, scrolling through old posts, looking for anything that might help me. That's when I thought of Liam again. Liam Harper had dated Chloe for 2 years in college. I had met him a handful of times, and he had always struck me as nice but kind of sad, like something in him had been broken. They had split up suddenly during Chloe's senior year, and the official story was that they had grown apart. But I remembered seeing Liam at a family dinner about 6 months after the breakup. He had shown up unexpectedly, asking to talk to my father and Linda. They had stepped outside with him, and when they came back inside 20 minutes later, my father had looked furious and Linda had looked shaken. I had asked Chloe about it later, and she had waved it off. Liam's just having trouble letting go. He's being dramatic about the breakup. It's actually kind of pathetic. At the time, I had believed her. Now I wondered what really happened. I found Liam on LinkedIn. He was working as a software engineer for a startup in Portland now. According to his profile, he was doing well. Senior engineer, good company. He looked healthy in his profile photo, smiling and relaxed. I sent him a message through LinkedIn, keeping it simple. Hi Liam, this is Skylar Davis, Chloe's sister. I know this is out of the blue, but I really need to talk to you about something important. It's about Chloe. Please call me when you can. I didn't expect him to respond. Why would he? It had been years since they broke up. He had moved on with his life. Why would he want to get dragged back into Davis family drama? He replied within an hour. I was wondering when someone would reach out. Call me. We talked for 3 hours that first night. Liam told me everything, and with each revelation, the picture of who Chloe really was became clearer and more horrifying. They had started dating during Chloe's sophomore year at UCLA. Liam had been a year ahead of her, about to graduate with his computer science degree. He said Chloe had pursued him aggressively, showing up at places she knew he would be, finding excuses to talk to him, making it clear she was interested. I should have seen the red flags, Liam said. But she was beautiful and funny, and she made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. I thought I had won the lottery. The first year was good, he said. Great even. Chloe was the perfect girlfriend. Attentive, supportive, interested in his life and his work. She introduced him to her family, and Linda and my father loved him. They treated him like the son they never had. Your dad would take me to lunch, just the two of us. He'd ask about my career plans, give me advice. Linda would have me over for dinner and make my favorite foods. I felt like I finally had the family I'd always wanted. Then slowly things started to change. It was little things at first, Liam said. She needed money for textbooks. Could I spot her $200? Her rent was late. Could I cover it just this once? Her car needed repairs. Could I put it on my credit card? Every time she promised she'd pay me back. She never did. By the time they had been together for a year, Chloe had borrowed over $10,000 from him. He had started to worry, started to ask when she would pay him back, and she had gotten defensive. She made me feel like I was being cheap, like I didn't really love her if I was worried about money. She said her parents were wealthy, and she'd have access to her trust fund soon, and she'd pay me back double. She made it sound like I was investing in our future together. Then his credit cards started maxing out. I got a call from my bank saying I had exceeded my credit limit. I told them that was impossible. I barely used that card. They read off a list of charges: designer clothes, expensive dinners, a weekend trip to Vegas. All things I hadn't purchased. When Liam confronted Chloe, she broke down crying. Said she had been so stressed about school and money, and she had made a terrible mistake. She promised to stop to get help to make it right. I believed her. I loved her. I thought we were going to get through it together. But it didn't stop. It got worse. Chloe started forging Liam's signature on loan documents. She took out credit cards in his name. She accessed his bank accounts and transferred money to herself. By the time Liam realized the full extent of what she had done, he was $45,000 in debt. I went to your father, Liam said. I thought he would help. I showed him all the evidence, the forged documents, the credit card statements, everything. I thought he would make her stop. What did he say? He said Chloe had already told him what happened, that I had given her permission to use my credit, and now I was trying to backtrack because I was angry about the breakup. He said if I pursued any legal action, he would have his lawyers bury me, that he would ruin me. I felt sick. I'm so sorry. Linda offered me a deal. She said if I signed a non-disclosure agreement and promised to never contact Chloe again, she would pay off half the debt, $22,000. I was a kid, Skylar. I was terrified. I had no money for a lawyer, so I took the deal. Did you ever tell anyone else? Who would believe me? Chloe was this beautiful, charismatic person from a wealthy family. I was just some broke college student, and I had signed an NDA. If I talked, they would sue me for everything I had left, which was nothing. We sat in silence for a moment, and I could hear Liam breathing on the other end of the line. Why are you calling me now? He asked finally. I told him everything. The car swap, the crash, the frame job, the photo, the police not believing me. When I finished, Liam was quiet for a long time. She tried to kill you, he said finally. Or at least seriously hurt me, and she's getting away with it. What do you need from me? Evidence. Anything you have that proves Chloe is capable of this kind of manipulation. I know you signed an NDA, but fuck the NDA, Liam said. I'll help you. I should have helped myself years ago, but I was too scared. I won't make that mistake again. Over the next few days, Liam sent me everything he had saved. Screenshots of text messages where Chloe admitted to using his credit cards, emails where she had forged his signature and then joked about it. Even a few voice recordings from arguments where she had threatened him, saying that if he ever told anyone what she had done, she would accuse him of abuse and rape, and everyone would believe her because she was the girl and he was the guy. Listening to those recordings made my blood boil. The Chloe in those audio files was nothing like the sweet, concerned sister she played in public. She was cold, calculating, and absolutely vicious. But even with all of this, I still didn't have direct proof that she had sabotaged her own car. There's one more thing, Liam said during our 4th or 5th phone call. I don't know if it's still there, but it might help. What? When Chloe and I were together, I was pretty sure she was cheating on me. She would disappear for hours, make up obviously fake excuses about where she had been, so I put a GPS tracker on her car. You tracked her. I know how it sounds. I'm not proud of it, but I was losing my mind, and I needed to know if I was being paranoid or if she really was lying to me. And was she? Oh yeah. She was seeing at least 2 other guys while we were together. But that's not important now. What's important is that I never took the tracker off her car. It's a tiny magnetic device attached to the underside of the frame. If it's still there and if the battery hasn't died, we might be able to access the location history. The car is completely totaled. It's in an impound lot. The tracker should have uploaded all its data to the cloud. We can check. My hands were shaking as Liam walked me through accessing the GPS tracking app. He gave me the login information and I pulled it up on my laptop. The account was still active. The tracker was still sending data, and when I pulled up the location history, I saw something that made my heart race. 3 days before the accident, Chloe's BMW had been at a location in South Seattle for over 2 hours. Not a dealership. Not a mechanic shop I recognized. I pulled up the address and found it was a small independent garage in an industrial area. That's not her usual mechanic, I said. Why would she go there? I don't know, but it's worth checking out. The next day I drove to the garage. It was exactly as sketchy as the address suggested. A low building with corrugated metal siding, no signs except for a number spray-painted on the door. There were a few cars in various states of disrepair scattered around the lot, and the smell of motor oil hung heavy in the air. I knocked on the door, and a man in his 50s answered. He had grease-stained hands and a suspicious expression. Yeah, I'm looking for information about a BMW that was here a few weeks ago. I showed him a photo of the car on my phone. Do you remember working on it? His eyes narrowed. Who's asking? I'm the owner. There was an accident and I'm trying to figure out what happened. I think someone might have tampered with the brakes. The color drained from his face. Look, lady, I don't want any trouble. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to know what happened. Please. He looked around nervously, then gestured for me to come inside. The garage was cramped and cluttered, every surface covered in tools and parts. He led me to a small office in the back and closed the door. You said you're the owner of that BMW. Yes, the lie came easily. You're not the woman who brought it in. That was my sister. She borrowed the car and then I stopped reconsidering my strategy. What did she ask you to do? He hesitated, then sighed. She wanted the brakes sabotaged. Said she needed them to fail, but not right away. Said it had to look like an accident. Even though I had suspected it, hearing him confirm it made me feel like I had been punched in the stomach. And you did it. She paid me $5,000 cash. I've got bills to pay a daughter in college. I didn't think he ran a hand over his face. I didn't think anyone would actually get hurt. She said it was for an insurance scam that she wanted to collect a payout on her own car. Someone did get hurt. I got hurt. I almost died. Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you have security cameras? He nodded slowly. Yeah, but if I give you that footage and she finds out it came from me, she won't know, I promise. But I need that footage. It's the only way I can prove what she did. He burned the video onto a USB drive and handed it over with shaking hands. I didn't know anyone would get hurt, he said again. You didn't care, I said coldly. You took money to sabotage a car and you didn't think about the consequences. But you can make it right now. If the police come asking you, tell them the truth. She'll sue me. She'll press charges. She's going to prison. And if you cooperate, maybe you will too, but at least you'll have done the right thing. I left that garage with the USB drive clutched in my hand like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because it was. This was the proof I needed. This was the thing that would make everyone believe me. I went home and watched the video on my laptop. The security footage was grainy and black and white, but the image was clear enough. Chloe in her designer coat and perfect hair leaning against the BMW and talking to the mechanic. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see her gesturing, see the mechanic nodding, see her hand him a thick envelope. The timestamp matched the GPS data. 3 days before the accident. I had her. But I still needed more. One piece of video from a shady garage wouldn't be enough on its own, not when Chloe had built such a convincing narrative. I needed to connect all the dots in a way that even my family couldn't ignore. The phone repair shop called me 3 weeks after the accident. They had managed to recover some of the data from my phone. Not everything, but enough. We got your texts from the past month, the technician said. And some of your photos. The rest is too corrupted. I picked up the recovered data and immediately pulled up my text thread with Chloe. There it was, the conversation from the night of the accident. Chloe, hey Skylar, I have a huge favor to ask. Can we swap cars tonight? Chloe, I have this really important meeting tomorrow morning with a potential investor for my nonprofit, and my car is making this weird noise. I think something is wrong with the brakes. Me, where are you? Chloe, corner of Pine and Broadway. You're a lifesaver, Skylar. Seriously, I owe you. Reading it again with the benefit of hindsight, I could see how carefully she had worded everything. She had mentioned the brakes, specifically setting up her cover story. She had chosen a neutral location for the swap, somewhere public, where she couldn't be accused of luring me into a trap. She had been so careful, so calculated. But she had made one mistake. She had deleted her copy of the texts, thinking that would eliminate the evidence. She hadn't counted on me being able to recover mine. I took screenshots of everything and backed it up in 3 different places. Then I kept digging. I started going through all of Chloe's old social media posts, looking for anything that might be useful. That's when I noticed something about the photo that had supposedly shown me drunk outside my parents' house. I downloaded the image and opened it in photo editing software, zooming in as far as I could. The person in the photo was wearing my leather jacket, the distinctive one with the silver zippers. They had the same dark hair as me, styled similarly. They were leaning against a car in a way that obscured their face, making the photo deliberately blurry. But when I looked closely at the hands, I noticed something. The person in the photo was wearing nail polish. Dark red, perfectly manicured. I never wore nail polish. I was terrible at it, always chipped it within a day, so I had stopped trying years ago. But Chloe always had perfect nails. I zoomed in more, looking at the face. The nose was slightly different from mine, more upturned. The jawline was softer. And when I compared it side by side with photos of myself and photos of Chloe, the similarities between her and the person in the photo were obvious. Chloe had staged the photo herself. She had dressed up in my jacket, probably with a dark wig to match my hair, and taken the photo in my parents' driveway to create an alibi. But that meant she had planned this. Not just the car sabotage, but the entire frame job. The photo, the timeline, everything. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was premeditated. The question was why? What did I have that Chloe wanted? What could she possibly gain from destroying me? I thought about it for days, turning it over in my mind, and slowly the pieces started to come together. My promotion, the one my manager had mentioned the day of the accident, the one that would have made me a senior project manager with a significant raise and more autonomy. If I got that promotion, I would finally have achieved something on my own merit, something that Chloe couldn't touch or take credit for. And Chloe couldn't stand that. She had always been the golden child, the one everyone admired and praised. But it was all built on a foundation of lies and manipulations and our parents' money. She had never actually earned anything herself. And if I succeeded, truly succeeded, it would expose the difference between us. It would show that hard work and integrity mattered more than charm and connections. Chloe didn't just want to hurt me. She wanted to destroy me before I could outshine her. I was still missing one piece, though. I needed something that tied everything together, something that would make it impossible for Chloe to lie her way out of this. Then I remembered the keychain. When the police had inventoried the items found in the crashed car, they had mentioned a crescent moon keychain. At the time, it hadn't meant anything to me. I thought maybe it was something I had left in Chloe's car at some point. But as I thought about it more, I realized that keychain was Chloe's. She carried it everywhere, had carried it for years. It was a gift from Linda, some expensive designer thing that she refused to be without. If that keychain was in the car, it meant Chloe had been in the car recently, maybe even the night of the accident. I called Detective Carter and asked if I could get a copy of the inventory list. He was reluctant at first, but eventually agreed. When I saw the full list, I noticed something else. There was a hair clip found in the car. A specific designer hair clip that I recognized because Chloe had posted about it on Instagram just a week before the accident, calling it her new favorite accessory. These weren't items that had been in the car for a while. These were items Chloe had with her recently. I had everything I needed now. The text messages, the GPS data, the video from the garage, the staged photo analysis, the personal items in the car, testimony from Liam about Chloe's history of fraud and manipulation. Now I just needed to decide what to do with it all. I could go to the police, present everything to Detective Carter, and let the justice system handle it. But I knew how that would go. Chloe would hire expensive lawyers. My father would back her up. The case would drag on for years, and even if she was eventually convicted, she would serve minimal time in some comfortable white-collar prison. No, that wasn't enough. I wanted Chloe to feel what I felt. The betrayal, the humiliation, the complete destruction of everything she had built. I wanted her to lose everything the same way she had tried to make me lose everything. and I knew exactly how to do it. Chloe's entire life was built on her reputation, the foundation, the engagement to Eric, the social media presence where she positioned herself as this inspiring young philanthropist. Her relationship with our parents. It was all a carefully constructed image, and if that image cracked, the whole thing would come crashing down. So I started small. I created an anonymous social media account and posted the first breadcrumb. Just a photo of the crescent moon keychain with a simple caption, "Funny how things end up where they're not supposed to be." Within hours, people were commenting, asking questions. Chloe's friends were tagging her, asking if she had lost her keychain. She posted a story showing that she still had it, but I could tell she was rattled. She didn't know what the post meant or who had made it. The next day, I posted a short video clip from the garage security footage. Just 10 seconds. Chloe talking to the mechanic, her face clearly visible. The caption, "What were you discussing? Chloe Davis." Her phone must have exploded. The comments on the video were full of speculation. People recognized her, recognized the garage, started asking questions about what she was doing there. She posted another story, this time calling the video lies and threatening legal action against whoever was spreading misinformation. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted. I waited a few days, letting the speculation build, and then I posted the analysis of the staged photo, side-by-side comparisons showing the differences between me and the person in the photo. Close-ups of the nail polish, the nose, the jawline. The caption, "When you're so desperate to frame someone, you forget the details." This one went viral. News outlets picked it up. True crime bloggers started dissecting the evidence. The original photo that had made me look guilty was now being used as proof that Chloe had tried to frame me. Chloe's social media was being absolutely flooded. She went private on all her accounts, but the damage was already done. Screenshots were being shared everywhere. Her carefully curated image was disintegrating in real time. But I wasn't done yet. I sent a complete evidence package to the board of directors of Chloe's foundation. Every piece of evidence I had, along with a detailed letter explaining what she had done and questioning whether someone who had attempted murder should be the face of a youth charity organization. I sent the same package to Eric Donovan, along with a separate letter detailing Chloe's history with Liam, and including some text messages I had found where Chloe had been planning to access Eric's family money before they were even married. And finally, I sent everything to my father and Linda, not just the evidence about the crash, but also everything from Liam, the credit card fraud, the forged signatures, the threats, the NDA they had made him sign, the hush money, all of it. Then I waited. It took 3 days for everything to explode, and when it did, it was more spectacular than I could have imagined. Eric called off the engagement. He didn't just call it off privately. He posted a public statement on his social media saying he had been deceived and manipulated by someone he thought he loved. He said he was speaking out because he didn't want anyone else to fall victim to the same manipulation. He detailed some of what Chloe had done, including her attempts to access his trust fund and her plans to use his family's connections for her own gain. The post was shared tens of thousands of times. Eric came from a prominent family, and his statement gave credibility to all the other accusations swirling around Chloe. If even her own fiancé was calling her out, there had to be truth to it. The foundation held an emergency board meeting. Within 24 hours, they released a statement saying that Chloe Davis was no longer associated with the organization in any capacity. They announced an independent audit to determine if any funds had been misappropriated during her tenure. They didn't explicitly say she had done anything illegal, but the implication was clear. The local news picked up the story. Local philanthropist faces accusations of fraud and attempted murder. It was a headline Chloe had probably dreamed of her entire life, but not like this. My phone rang, my father. I let it go to voicemail the first 3 times. The 4th time I answered. My voice was cold. "You need to come to the house. Now." "I don't need to do anything." "Skylar, I am your father, and I am telling you to come to this house so we can discuss this situation as a family. We haven't been a family for a very long time, Dad. You made sure of that. This is not negotiable. Be here in an hour or what? You'll cut me off. You already did that. You'll disown me. I've been as good as disowned since I was 10. There's nothing you can threaten me with anymore." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Please," he said finally, and his voice cracked. "Please, Skylar, I'm asking you. Come to the house." I had never heard my father beg for anything in my entire life. "Fine, but I'm not coming to be yelled at or blamed. I'm coming to tell you the truth, and you're going to listen." I hung up before he could respond. An hour later, I pulled up to my father's house in the Uber I could barely afford. The house looked the same as always. Perfect landscaping, expensive cars in the driveway, the kind of place that screamed old money and success. But when I walked inside, the atmosphere was anything but perfect. My father and Linda were in the living room. So was Chloe. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed and pulled into a messy bun. She wasn't wearing makeup, and I could see dark circles under her eyes. She had lost weight in just the past few days. When she saw me walk in, her eyes filled with tears. "Skylar," she started, her voice trembling. "Don't," I said. "Don't say a word." My father stood up. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the past week. "Sit down. We need to talk about this." "I'll stand." I stayed near the door, keeping my escape route clear. Linda spoke up, her voice tight. "Skylar, there are serious accusations being made. Accusations that could destroy this family. We need to get to the truth." "I've been trying to tell you the truth for weeks. You didn't want to hear it then." "We're listening now," my father said. I looked at all three of them, these people who were supposed to be my family, and felt nothing but cold anger. "Fine. Where do you want me to start with the car crash that Chloe orchestrated? The mechanic she paid to sabotage her own brakes so she could frame me? The photos she staged to make me look drunk? The GPS data that proves she went to that garage 3 days before the accident? Or should we go back further? Maybe to how she defrauded her ex-boyfriend of $45,000, and you paid him off to keep quiet about it?" Linda's face went white. "How did you—" "Liam told me everything. He's willing to testify now. He's done being scared of you." Chloe was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. "Skylar, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was just so jealous of you, and I made a terrible mistake." "You tried to kill me." "No, I didn't want you to die. I just wanted the accident to happen so you would be blamed, so for once you would be the problem child instead of me. I never thought you'd actually get hurt. The brakes failed completely, Chloe. I could have died. Other people on the road could have died. But you didn't care about that, did you? You only cared about yourself." My father sat down heavily, his head in his hands. "This can't be true. Chloe, tell me this isn't true." "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I'll make it right. I'll confess everything to the police. I'll take responsibility." "It's too late for that," I said. "The police already have all the evidence. Detective Carter reopened the investigation this morning. You're going to be arrested, Chloe. And no amount of apologizing is going to change that." Linda stood up, her face twisted with anger. "You did this. You destroyed her. You've been jealous of her your entire life, and now you're getting your revenge." "No. Chloe destroyed herself. I just made sure everyone knew the truth. We could have handled this privately. We could have worked this out as a family. We are not a family." My voice rose, all the anger and hurt from years and years of being ignored and dismissed finally breaking free. "We stopped being a family when my mother died and you replaced her with your daughter. We stopped being a family when you decided that Chloe was worth everything and I was worth nothing. We stopped being a family when you let her get away with destroying everyone around her because you were too concerned with appearances to see what was right in front of you." The room was silent except for Chloe's crying. My father finally looked up at me. "I failed you." It was the first honest thing he had said to me in years. "Yes," I said, "you did. I'm sorry. I don't care. Skylar, please. Let us help you. Let us make this right." "How? By paying me off like you did, Liam, by asking me to sign an NDA and pretend none of this happened, by letting Chloe get away with attempted murder because it might embarrass the family. No. By supporting you, by believing you, by being the father I should have been all along." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "It's too late for that. You had 18 years to be my father after Mom died. You chose not to. You don't get to change your mind now just because it's convenient." "I love you, Skylar." Those words, the ones I had wanted to hear for so long, felt hollow, empty. "No, you don't. You love the idea of having a second chance. You love being able to tell yourself that you tried to make amends. But you don't actually love me. You don't even know me." Chloe stood up suddenly, her face blotchy and red from crying. She took a step toward me, and I instinctively stepped back. "Skylar, please. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you. Don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll give you money, I'll sell the foundation, I'll leave Seattle. Just please don't let them arrest me." "Why would I do that? You tried to kill me, Chloe. You plotted it out, planned every detail, and then you tried to ruin my life when it didn't go exactly the way you wanted. Why in the world would I help you? Because we're sisters?" We were never sisters. We were two people forced to live in the same house, and you spent every single day making sure I knew I was less important than you." Chloe's face transformed then. The tears stopped. The pleading expression vanished. What was left was cold and calculating and absolutely vicious. "You think you've won," she said quietly, "but you've just made yourself the villain. Everyone is going to see you as the vindictive sister who couldn't handle being second best. They're going to see you as the person who destroyed a family out of jealousy. Maybe some people will see it that way, but I don't care. Because the people who matter, the people who actually look at the evidence, will see you for what you really are. A manipulative sociopath who finally got caught." Chloe lunged at me. I had been expecting it, half hoping for it even, and I was ready. I sidestepped and she stumbled past me off balance. My father caught her before she fell. "I think we're done here," I said. I pulled out my phone and held it up. "By the way, I've been recording this entire conversation, including Chloe's confession. Detective Carter is going to be very interested in hearing it." I walked out of that house for the last time. Behind me, I could hear Linda screaming my father, trying to calm everyone down, and Chloe yelling threats that she would never be able to follow through on. I didn't look back. Chloe was arrested 2 days later. The police had more than enough evidence to charge her with attempted murder, insurance fraud, filing false police reports, and a handful of other crimes. Her arraignment made the local news. She tried to look dignified in her orange jumpsuit, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She couldn't post bail. My father could have afforded it, but he chose not to. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he and Linda were getting divorced. The stress of everything had broken them. The trial took 8 months. Chloe's lawyers tried every trick they could think of. They argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that I had fabricated it out of jealousy, that the mechanic was lying to save himself. But when Liam took the stand and described his own experiences with Chloe, when the jury saw the video footage and the GPS data and heard the recorded confession, there was no reasonable doubt left. Chloe was convicted on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in prison. I was in the courtroom when the sentence was read. I watched Chloe's face crumple as the reality set in. She was going to prison. Her perfect life was over. As they led her out of the courtroom, she looked at me. Just for a second, our eyes met. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just looked at her and I hoped she understood what I was thinking. "You did this to yourself." Eric sued her for emotional distress and fraud. He won a settlement of $200,000, though I doubted he would ever collect. Chloe had no assets left. Everything she had was either seized or used to pay her legal fees. The foundation officially dissolved after the audit revealed she had embezzled close to $300,000 over 2 years. The board filed criminal charges, adding more years to her sentence. My father and Linda sold the house and moved to Arizona. I heard they were trying to rebuild their relationship, but I doubted it would work. Too much damage had been done. As for me, I took the settlement money from my insurance company. With all the evidence proving the brakes had been sabotaged, they paid out the full claim plus damages for the weeks I had been falsely accused. It was enough to put a down payment on a small condo near Lake Washington. I quit my job at the tech firm. I had been worried that the scandal would affect my career, but instead my manager called me into his office a week after Chloe's arrest. "I want you to know that none of this changes our opinion of you," Tom said. "If anything, we're impressed by how you handled an impossible situation. That promotion we talked about, it's yours if you still want it." I almost took it. It was what I had been working toward for years. But standing in Tom's office, I realized I didn't want it anymore. That version of my life where I worked 60-hour weeks trying to prove myself to people who didn't really care felt like it belonged to someone else. "Thank you," I said. "But I think I need a change, a fresh start." I left the company on good terms and started freelancing as a project management consultant. It gave me flexibility and control over my own schedule. I could choose which projects to take on and which to decline. I answered to no one but myself. I also took up photography. I had always been interested in it but never had the time. Now I spent my weekends driving to different parts of Washington, hiking to remote locations and capturing landscapes. There was something therapeutic about it, about choosing what to focus on, what to keep in frame, and what to leave out. I posted my photos online not for validation or likes, but because I enjoyed sharing them. Slowly I built up a following. People asked if they could buy prints. One photo of a sunrise over Mount Rainier was featured in a local magazine. It wasn't the life I had planned. It was better. Liam and I stayed in touch. We became friends, real friends, bonded by our shared experience of surviving Chloe. He came up to Seattle a few times to visit, and we would get coffee and talk about everything except Chloe. He was dating someone new, a woman who worked at his company, and he seemed happy. Actually happy, not the forced version I remembered from when he was with Chloe. "Thank you," he said during one of his visits, "for doing what I was too scared to do. You helped. I couldn't have done it without you." Still, you stood up to her. You fought back, and you won. "We won," I corrected. 6 months after Chloe's sentencing, I got an unexpected letter. It was from my father. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a handwritten letter 3 pages long. My father's handwriting, usually so precise and controlled, was shaky. He apologized. For not seeing what Chloe was, for not protecting me, for choosing his new family over his daughter, for failing me in every way a father could fail a child. He said he understood if I never wanted to see him again, that he didn't deserve my forgiveness, but he wanted me to know that he was getting help, therapy, that he was trying to understand how he had let things get so bad, that he was trying to be better even though it was too late to fix what he had broken. At the end of the letter he wrote, "I was so focused on creating a perfect family that I didn't realize I was destroying the family I already had. I will never forgive myself for choosing appearances over truth. I failed your mother, and I failed you. I'm sorry, Skylar. I'm so sorry." I read the letter 3 times. I felt the anger I expected, but also something else, something that felt almost like pity. I didn't write back, not right away, but I kept the letter. I put it in a drawer and left it there, and sometimes I would take it out and read it again, and each time I felt a little less angry and a little more sad. Maybe someday I would respond. Maybe not. But at least now I had the choice. That's what freedom felt like, having choices. A year after the crash, I was sitting on the small balcony of my condo watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I had a cup of coffee in my good hand, my broken arm had healed, though it still ached when it rained, and I was scrolling through the photos I had taken that morning at Snoqualmie Falls. My phone buzzed with a notification, a message from Liam. "Just saw an article. Chloe's up for parole review next month." I felt a brief flash of anxiety, then let it go. Even if she got out early, which was unlikely, she had nothing left. No family support, no career, no reputation. She would be starting from zero, and she would have to live the rest of her life knowing that everyone knew what she really was. I typed back, "Let her come, I'm not afraid anymore." And I meant it. I looked out at the lake, at the water, reflecting the sunset, and I thought about how far I had come, from that scared, desperate woman in the hospital bed who thought her life was over to this, to freedom, to peace, to a life built on truth instead of lies. I had a scar on my forehead that would never fully fade. My arms sometimes ached. I had nightmares occasionally about the crash, waking up in a cold sweat with the sound of metal crunching still echoing in my ears. But I had survived. More than that, I had won. Not because Chloe was in prison. Not because my father had apologized. But because I had learned the most important lesson of my life. Some people will try to destroy you. They will lie about you, manipulate others against you, and do everything in their power to take away everything you've worked for. And when they do, you have a choice. You can accept it, let them win, and spend the rest of your life as a victim. Or you can fight back. You can gather your evidence, build your case, and expose them for what they really are. Not for revenge, though, that's part of it, but for justice, for truth, for the simple, powerful act of refusing to be destroyed. I chose to fight. And in fighting, I discovered that I was stronger than I ever knew, that I didn't need my family's approval or society's validation, that I was enough all on my own. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the sky faded from orange to purple to deep blue. I took a sip of my coffee and smiled. "Cheers to new beginnings," I said quietly to myself. And I meant that too. So here's my question for you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you trusted betrayed you in the worst possible way? Did you get your justice? Did you walk away, or did you fight back? Leave your story in the comments below. Hit that like button if you believe in standing up for yourself, and subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to be victims. Because the truth always comes out eventually. And sometimes revenge is just another word for justice.